Hello, welcome to our video where I'm going to explain how to create form in FIYU. First, I will create component using command line ng-generate component user form standalone. Now I created standalone component just like all components in FIYU are made. Now we are going to add model for our form. We are adding entity decorator. Singular name is singular name of entity, in some cases used as label. Plural name is plural name of entity, also used as label in some cases. In form block titles property, we define how many blocks of fields will be displayed on screen, and we add their labels creating object, where key is group number and value is block title. In our case, we have two blocks, one is user information and the another one is roles. Content type is used to set content type in headers of request that is going to be used on submitting form. We got this content type from our backend team, it might be different for you. Singular URL name is used as singular name of entity URL used for default navigation. Similar story with plural URL name, it is plural name of entity URL used for navigation. Permission prefix is entity prefix, and in our case it is user because we are using user module, and some of permissions that user can have are view, edit, upload, download, and so on. Now we are creating class that we will name user, and it extends abstract entity class and inherits all variables and methods from abstract entity class. To create form field, we have to add form entity decorator. By default, form field type is input text field, but we can also change it depending on our needs. First form field that we are going to create is user's first name. So we are adding form entity decorator. Group number is 1, so it means this field will be part of user information block as we defined above. Label is first name. This field is required, so we are going to set required property on true, and name of this entity is first name type string. Similar thing I'm going to do to add last name form field. We are adding form entity decorator. Group number is 1, it belongs to user information block. Label is last name. This field is required, so we are going to set required property on true. And we have to add form entity's name, and it is last name type string. Now we will add username form field. We are adding form entity decorator. Group number is 1 as part of user information block. Label is username. This field is required, so we have to add a required property and set on true. This field will have pattern validation. User will be able to enter only letters, numbers, and underscore, so we add property validators, open parentheses, and add needed pattern this way. Form entity's name is username and type is string. Next is email form field. It is part of user information, so we add group number 1. Label is email, and it has two validations. One is required and the other one is email validation. So we add required, we set it on true, and validators property, and then set email validation on true. In documentation that we posted on our site, you can find more validations. Form entity name is email and type is string. To define different type of form field, we use property form type in form entity decorator. This one will be dropdown. It belongs to first group block as user information. Label is user type. Lookup empty property is set to false, so it doesn't display first value from list as default. We will use and set organization user type model as a lookup model for filling up drop-down options list. Also, to get data from server, we have to define lookup service to get data. In our case, it is organization user type service, where is method for fetching data. Name of this form entity is user type ID and type is number. Next, we will add the date range when user will be valid. We will create valid from date field. Form type will be date time. It can be just date or just time. Group number is 1. Label will be valid from, and validators are required, and date must be less than valid to field, and this is way how to set it. In couple of next minutes we are going to create field valid to. To create date field that has validation to be less than other date in form, in validators we add property date less than and then add name of field for comparison. Now we need valid to field. Form type is datetime. Group number is 1 as part of user information. Label is valid to. Validators are required and that valid to date should be greater than valid from date, as we mentioned before. Name of this form entity is valid to and type is date. And let's add roles checkbox in second form field block. We can check more options and data we are going to send to server is string array. That's why are we setting array value type as string. Form type is checkbox. Group number is 2. It is part of second block roles. We will use and set role model for checkbox options list. So we use lookup model role. Also, to get data from server, we need lookup service, and in our case, it is role service. In role service, there is a method to fetch data. If we don't want to render label, we can set render label on false. This field is required, and we will set it on true. Since component is standalone, we have to import FIYU form component from user interface library that we are going to use in HTML. We will add until destroy to unsubscribe from all observables when component is destroyed. User form component class extends abstract form component, and model that will be used is user model that we have created. In constructor, we have to add injector, and we have to override dynamic dialog reference, and we also have to override dynamic dialog configuration. In a supercall, we have to add user model, user service, module metadata, injector, dynamic dialog reference, and dynamic dialog configuration. Now we have to create our HTML file. In HTML, we are going to use FIYU form component and we are opening FIYU form tag. We have to forward data to FIYU form component as inputs such as form purpose. It can be create or edit. Then we have form group input. They are defined in abstract form component class. Form fields and form block titles we have defined in user model. We define two blocks, user information and roles. Loading message, form submit clicked, and show form loader inputs are defined in abstract form component, and we are going to add them now. We have to handle some outputs, and they are on form submit and on form discard. If needed, we can override variables and methods in abstract form component class. Then we have to add root to our component. Path is user. Then we have to lazy load component. For can activate, we have permissions guard that checks if user has enough permissions to access this root. Required module is user, and user has to have user edit permission to be able to create and edit users. So we set user edit as required permission. Also to edit user, we will use same component, and we have to create new root. Path will contain user ID as root parameter. Everything else is same as we defined for user root. After these steps, we are going to compile code and test form. We are going to create new user and then we are going to edit user. Thank you for watching and I hope you found all needed information in this video.